Okay, so hello, this is Cube. I'm gonna review this VOD from Conjoined. It says mainly play Reinhardt, also play Hog, Winston, try to play everyone else honestly. I don't think I'm that bad of a player. I have decent awareness and decision making for a gold player, at least I think. But I somehow struggle to climb, so I'm clearly doing something wrong still. Review my game, sometimes the biggest issues I think are of positioning and being indecisive, and sometimes just making dumb mistakes like charging into a bad position, wasting fire strike, etc. Anyways, with that said, here in my most recent game. Round 1 was a literal mess, but we surprised and recovered, and strong sadly ended up in a draw. Okay, so this is a draw game. Got it, so it's pretty close. What I'll say is that usually for the first round, you always want to be ready for anything, right? Because you don't know what's going to come through those doors. So, I just say that you should just consider those things when you're like, if you don't know what's going to come through, you should always just be prepared for like what could get you killed instantly. You know, so like say it was like a Hog, McCree, Brig, Anna, or something, and they like immediately just hook you in, you know. So this is, I'm not talking about your current positioning. This an opening fire strike is fine. Just like you should wait until you see what the enemy has before you start making like those kind of decisions on like where you should be positioned or what kind of gameplay you're gonna go, like how aggressive you're gonna be, or so on and so forth. So this is gold, huh? Okay, cool. Let's take a watch. Also, I might pause it from time to time. If I do pause, you can just skip ahead a little bit. Usually, unless I'm ranting about something, sometimes I get work calls. And since I'm like streaming it to YouTube, I don't really have a good way to pause it. Okay, so. Okay, you recognize the backup. Good. Not much you can do here. Your Anna and your Moira died right away.
Get into position.
They have a comp that's, other than the Reinhardt, isn't really going to play around you. Everyone else is going to like run away from, like, or go around you. Okay, you hear people dying.
Objective lost. Stop the kill.
You should have counterpinned there, in my opinion, but nice. But yeah, so nothing really, like, this is just one of those things where it's like, it's you and an Anna, like, yeah, you're like swinging and you're like building charge, but realistically you shouldn't be there in the first place because you're probably unlikely to kill the enemies, and you're leaving Anna in a position where this like Tracer, who's like playing super aggressive, can just kind of run up and do whatever she wants. You recognize that you're probably never going to catch that Tracer, but that fire strike was probably a waste. Now, the best thing you can do is like this, is like just kind of zone her a little bit and try to keep her off your healers. Yep. But you still need to go contest cart because you're main tank. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I would agree a little bit. So like let's review this little segment here. So you recognize that your Anna had died to the mines, so regardless, if that Reinhardt would have instant reacted and he just shattered you, you would have died, and this would have been free. I don't know why they didn't like take advantage of the fact that you were just going to charge in there to that point. You need to break LOS when you're getting coalescence, especially if you're like half or less, because it is just too much damage. And you need your Moira to heal you. So like she's still running back. This is a typical thing of, I noticed you didn't really look back to see like who's with you or like what what's gonna like how this fight's gonna play out, right? So like you just kind of like, I'm gonna go in and contest point because I know I got a contest point, but you're not like, oh, like how should I position myself so that way either A, I take the least amount of damage, or B, I don't put myself in a dangerous situation until like my help comes. Because like, yeah, you have Diva and you have Reaper, but like neither of them have their ults, but they're gonna like build into this fight, right? But so you need to stall for that. And this is kind of like checking tab as well. Like you already know you don't have the Ana, so your healing's not going to be all there. So you need to like consider, like you need to watch the kill cam basically, like, and you need to look behind you. A good way of telling if your position is good or bad is if you look behind you and there's nobody, or if you look behind there and there are people, or if they're playing next to you, like that's a good sign that you can like push up. But you don't want to obviously push into this area because you have a lot of risks, like with the Ana, the Ball, the Reinhardt, and now the Moira who's coalescing. So like as soon as you saw the coalescence and this like Reinhardt, which you kind of have a guess that he has Shatter, you need to move out of the way because like as you said, as you can see, either the coalescence is going to kill you or this Reinhardt's going to kill you. One of the two is going to occur. Which it does, because Moira recognizes that she can kill you with her coalescence, and she does. Moira doesn't have enough time to get in position to heal you. So, yeah, and they can just clean this up. I would have just shattered right away, and you probably could have ended this fight sooner without even investing, like, the coalescence. So, that's not your fault, though. Game is hard. Also, you're missing a person. I noticed you only have 5 people on your team. Honestly, the fact that you even got back to at least even contest again was interesting. I'm gonna ask this actually before I continue. Are you guys 5? Okay, your 6th person does come back. Yeah, no wonder why you're like, oh, first round was bad. Yeah, because you're missing a player. That's exactly why it's bad. But you have to consider those things. It's like, as much as you want to play normal Overwatch in this scenario, if you're down a player, you're never going to win a fight, and you're always going to be pressured out of any area you're into. You have to just stall for as long as possible while preserving your life as much as possible. Does that mean using Shatter? I don't know, maybe. But you're always going to be on the back foot because they're always going to have more than you. Like, more team resources, more life, more damage, more everything. So like stalling till that player gets back, or maybe, who knows, maybe they're not even coming back, but in this case it looks like they do. And you just can't hold, you can't hold this area around this like corner, for example, like far from your healers, and opposing a ton of damage, because you're just never going to survive. We're not here. Okay, I would not jump into the mines, but it's fine. It's okay, Shatter, yeah. You guys recover. So like, you can go help that Reaper, Like, it's a bad habit Reinhardts get into, is like they feel like they can only see the battlefield through behind their shield. Like, you don't need to always have your shield up just to look around. You can just look around by turning your mouse and not being in that. Like, if you're not taking damage, or you're like, there's not an immediate threat in front of you, there's really not much of a point to that. Pretty good recovery. I'm going to charge here, but it's fine. That shield has no health. You're looking at it, it's 79. Stop peeking. Stop pulling it back up. Leave it down. Leave your shield down. There's a complete waste of shield management. There's really bad shield management. Because now, so like, look what you've done to yourself. Like, for almost, let's see how long. So like, your shield is low here, right? How long have you been low shield? Let's look. So like, yeah, big scary Reinhardt comes in, block the Shatter. Oh, you kind of block it. That's fine. Diva can eat a Shatter. She's not, she's not weak, but obviously she had. So like, consider that your Ana for a moment had to nano you to keep you alive there. If she didn't, you die. But instead of it being like an aggressive nano, or it ended up being like a really defensive nano. But like, just watch your shield. Watch your shield this whole time. 55. You're down. 87. You're still down. You're like, I can't believe it's still down. I can't believe it's still down. Now I have no shield. I have no choice but to charge. That was really, we call that really bad shield management, and it's probably you flicked it up a bunch of times when you didn't need it. It wasn't like, because obviously it was so low that most of any of the damage was going to break it anyway. But instead, you didn't get any use out of it. You ended up just having no shields for all that time. Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment. I'm looking for, I think you die, right? Yeah. There's when the shield breaks, yeah. We're gonna watch post this. But yeah, so basically what I'm gonna say there is that you really screwed yourself by like not letting your shield regen. You have to give it some time. And it's okay to take a little bit of damage. You could have been recharging it all when you walked all the way back up here, and you could have been recharging it as you were walking back, but you were like flicking it on and off just to pretend like a little tickle, you know. It's not ideal. Sorry. I want to show you this fight. Because your Ana gets a big sleep, but obviously you're not there for it. D.Va feels like she has no choice but to ult. It's fine. Your Moira gets herself killed. Ana feels like, your Ana's like, if I'm not here on the cart, she's like, I have no choice. Because she's like, I think like everyone's just going to die. But you need to consider who's shooting at you and like where you could be taking damage from. So like, yeah, you need to contest cart, but there's pretty much, other than the scary Reinhardt, you're pretty much no reason you shouldn't be like behind this cart preventing damage from downrange. I know in this scenario there's only an Ana, but she's still shooting at you too, or she can be a threat that can interrupt your process. D.Va's back, so like if you see the D.Va and you're low, it's okay to like just go hide, like go be somewhere else, like somewhere that is not in combat. Or like put that shield up and just like bring that Reinhardt away from the cart, because like if he's like ready to chase you, it's okay to like go to a health pack and like heal up. Like dying on cart is only necessary if there's like literally no one else on your team, and that's just one of those things that like you're not really relying on other teammates when you're like playing, is what it looks like to me. It's like you're just looking at this Reinhardt, you see the D.Va behind you, but obviously you're already dead, but you're prepared to die on this cart. You don't need to. You already have you have a nearly full health D.Va, and you have an Ana, who admittedly shouldn't probably be in the card anymore, but you can't hold what your teammates are doing against you. What you can do, though, is like work on your survivability in a situation. You don't want to always set yourself up to be like, well, unless my Ana heals me, I'm going to die here. That's usually what we call bad positioning.
Enemy contact.
So I think you guys lose this point, though, because you guys don't stabilize, yeah. So, these are only little things you can do. Obviously, there's like so many nuances in Overwatch, but these are the things I'm noticing. So let's skip ahead. I want to see how your attack goes, because you guys end up drawing. That's a 20-minute game. Jeez. I guess that's not that long. Okay. So, I know it's a little bit beyond gold level, but let's just talk real quick about the, like, looking at our team comp. You're like, okay, well, this time around, I noticed we have a Mei, we still have the D.Va, we have a Moira and an Ana. So it means, like, healing's going to be, like, really good for you, because you're going to have a possible Nano waiting for you, or, like, the Nade, which boosts healing by, you know, double almost. So it's like you get a lot more healing. Moira is really good at sustain healing with her P and her Biotic Orb. So you have a Mei who's really good at like isolating targets to allow you to take less damage. So like this is kind of like you can be D.Va to block shots. So you have like a very team that's almost kind of focused around you. That's like they're like saying, okay, Reinhardt is going to be probably the main one doing damage or like setting up our fights. Like Mei's going to set up the fight with an initiation like wall maybe. Maybe that's not happening in gold, but these are the things that you think about at higher levels, where it's like your damage output is going to pretty much be either you, Mei, or like Widow. Like Diva is going to be able to do damage too, but she's really good at cleaning up, but also protecting the supports. Like that's kind of her role in this comp. And you know, Mei Wall is going to be, or you know, Mei can freeze targets, which can like set you up for easy pins, etc. So you gotta like think about that. It's like, okay, well, I want to make sure I don't die, but I also want to make sure I'm in a position to like help Mei Mei whenever she needs it. So you hear the sleep. Unfortunately, you don't react fast enough. Yep, good, perfect. React right away to that Mei Wall. You get the isolated run. Block the nade. Nice. You should have kept going. Don't be afraid to take a little bit of damage, but. I'm pretty sure you just tried to pin your sleeping teammate, but you know what? I'm gonna let it slide. You see that, Genji? Help your Ana. Yeah. So like, as we were saying before, it's okay to take damage, dude. You're holding a shield up. You're at 500 health, and just soldiers just shooting at you. Instead of worrying about that, like if he was shooting your Ana, it'd be a little different. But your Ana needed help with the Genji who's on top of him, right? Like, look. Like, yes, the decision to shield block the soldier is important, but like let's look at it from his perspective, right? You're like, he's just shooting at you, but like he's not you're not actually protecting anybody. Like your Ana's 1 health and she's not even a shield range. Like if this soldier had just like clicked his brain and like realized he could just move over a little bit and then shoot that Ana, probably when she like he'd probably look for that. I'd even jump down there to get her. Like obviously, this fight's already lost, you know, the little nuance, but you're not actually protecting anyone. You do kind of look behind you there and recognize that, but it said you could have just swung on that Genji once and helped your Ana, but you're not actually doing anything. You have full health. You're not. Ana throws her nade because she needs to save her life, not yours. So you were even getting the bonus of that. So you're not really doing anything. Yeah. He has no choice but to come down, and now you can clean him up. It's whatever. If you want a little Rhine tech, I'm gonna tell you this. When you see, if you see the ball coming in, yeah, I'll wait for this moment here. This is something that you should really practice as Reinhardt because it's really good to have in like your kit. Because it's a normal Reinhardt thing. If you see the ball go in and you like see him start his charge, like you physically saw it, like. You could see it up in the corner. If you hear that or see him do that spin wind up, just aim your mouse to where you think he's like, look down and then just immediately shift. Don't even like take, you can do it. It is very predictable and it has a very, it is a bit of a nuanced timing, but there is a small window even out that's forgiving where it's like the moment he slams, if you see him start his slam and you just immediately hit shift, chances are that your wind up for charge is going to be about the same as his come down his ball. Like you're always going to be able to meet him and pin him when he does this. Even if he shield or not, doesn't matter. But it's enough to scare or disorient a ball into like not doing well. Or better yet, it sets up for more powerful stuns. You're like you could have set up and you usually get like a small window where he can't move right after the I don't know what you want to call it. I want to almost say somersault, but the other one. This is fine. Whatever. You should work on that Reinhardt. So, worked out, which is fine. And like, yeah, isolating the team helps. I just think that letting that Reinhardt go around you, like, assume for a moment he had a slightly better round, or like maybe you didn't know he had Shatter, but like you shattering his 2 supports is infinitely worse than like him shattering your team and like getting value while you're not there to help them. Okay, this is another little nuance thing, but if you're gonna shield bot, bro, your Widow is kind of counting on you to like do something here. So like, say for example you're here, you put this shield up to like look around the corner. Sorry, a little back a little bit more. Right here. Okay, so like, okay, I backed it up a little too much. It's fine, whatever. Let's watch from this point. This is like one of the instances where it's okay to just like, if your Widow's like looking to take a shot, like, or hold an angle, and you're really not doing quite literally anything, like you're up here just existing, like, you know, there's no damage or whatever. Looking around this corner doesn't really do you any good, but you could be... Look, she could have got this pick, but you can't obviously stop the biotic orb. But whatever you're doing here is, like, not helpful. You could have set up there, and you could have let her have some free shots on them. Or you could have protected her from this Moira. Instead, you, like, decided to drop down and let her die. So you could go engage the tanks, which isn't bad. You just took a really roundabout way to this fight, and you could have probably prevented a death and still been a participant in this one. Okay. There is a way to clear mines, and I don't think you know how to do it. So maybe don't do that. I would probably advise against, because you move around too much when you do it. You want to, the moment the mines land, you have to wait like a second or so, and then you want to do like just a 360 spin. Don't move your character, but just like swing around you, right? Or try to move out of the mines and then work your way into the mines, or pin, you know, any number of these things. But shatter. You should have shattered. I mean, yeah, you may have gotten grenaded, but I think that was a great shatter opportunity. I think you're a little too scared to use your ult sometimes, or like you're looking for maybe a too specific one. If you even just shatter just one enemy, the reason okay, let me explain better then. Let's say, so like this fight kind of starts sideways. You lose a couple key characters, but you haven't lost everybody. You still have a Coalescence and you have a Nano, and you're gonna get charged. You're gonna get Shatter off this. The reason Shatter is good here, let me just see. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Anna doesn't have sleep anyway because she slept somebody. But you obviously don't know that unless you like had scouted it first or like heard it, right? But the reason this Shatter would have been really good was that even if this Reinhardt was to like try to block it, chances are you're gonna kill the ball and you're gonna like do major damage, and you could shatter a ton of people, right? Moira blinked right out of it, so okay, maybe you wouldn't got. I was thinking maybe you could get the Moira, but it wasn't gonna play out that way. Let's just. But still, it's just an opportunity I think that got slipped by. But let's see how you end up using this Shatter. Money's wall is not that good. That was a really lucky Shatter, because that you needed that Rhine to drop his shield for it to pay dividends. But hey, you know what? We take those. That's what we call one of those, like, it's an inconsistent Shatter, right? Because, like, yeah, it worked out, but, like, if that Reinhardt had just let it play, then, like, it made sure that he was, like, if he was, like, advocately looking for the Shatter and was like, okay, I'm just not going to drop my shield for any reason, then it'd be one thing. Oh, you're going to get shattered. Oh, if he had shattered right out of that sleep when you got slept, like, if he would have got up and immediately shattered, he would have killed you. Unlucky. Yeah. Ooh, I can't believe you're still alive. You can take... You gold lines take living on the edge to an all-new extreme. But you get value here. Fine Shatter. He probably didn't know you had a new one cooked up. Those are good. If you feel like you've built a Shatter faster than normal, it's usually almost always okay to assume that that Reinhardt maybe doesn't know. Like, if you don't think he scouted it, it's okay to Don't mind the UI bug. I can see that there's a biotic orb just floating, just existing. It's not there. So like, I think you're over prioritizing clearing the mines, and I might even say that Reinhardt recognized that. That's why he's like, I'm gonna shatter the dude, because he's more focused on destroying mines than he is like protecting his team. So you don't need to clear out every single minefield. Like, it's okay to just leave mines there and just run away. You usually only want to clear out minefields if your like team is waiting on it, right? So your team burned a lot of resources here, and you lost a player. You're doing a little bit of this Rhine v Rhine, which is like, if you're directly, like, if you both Rhines are just directly in front of each other, you're going to be impaired by your positioning. So let's talk about this positioning for a moment, and why it was bad, and why your little Rhine v Rhine did not work out in your favor. I'm going to just show you from this perspective. So, like, when you commit to this Reinhardt, you're committing to this area. Like, you're going to fight around not this first corner, but nearly the second corner, which is like, it kind of becomes a corner because of the cart, right? They can't see you. So like, your healers have no choice but to like come up either into like this space, or like even the even riskier space where the ball wants to control or quickly take over is like this space, right? So your healers cannot play in like safe spots. Like, maybe Anna could have gone up and wide, but she's thinking like, oh, I'm not going to have time. I need to come here. So when you recommit, both your healers are being dove upon. So like, both of them are now distracted. They're not going to heal you, but his healers, because the rest of his team, like, Soldier's going for a flank because he's okay, but his healers are both right here, just like, and they have nothing better to do than to watch this guy. They know their ball will probably do okay without them, so they're less worried about healing him. So like, at first he's like a little nervous about it, but he eventually realizes that when his soldier ults, see like how your positioning here led to this event. Now it's like, oh, now your team has no choice but to run away, because they're like, we got to go run away from this soldier ult. I cannot stay and help my Reinhardt. Maybe they could retreat this way, sure, but Ball had kind of already pushed them out, and your soldier was, or like, it was a widow, now he's a soldier. It was respawning, right? So like, Mei hides, and Anna has no choice but to like try to take this. And while your team is trying to deal with this soldier ult, which is like, he is controlling your team, where you're controlling just one Reinhardt who has 2 healers. You will never kill this Reinhardt. He's not even close to being dead, and you're already depleting your resource. You have no choice but to back up, but your Anna's gone. And this is what I was talking about before with, you need to look behind you when making these kinds of decisions. Like, you are too far up. You are not providing any real coverage for your team. Like, say you weren't here. This Reinhardt's, what, he's going to Fire Strike? You should be over here playing with your, like, D.Va and Anna and your Moira. Let them come, because that Reinhardt would have to come back out to you, and that would bring him to your, but that would bring him more into your fray, where you could be defended, and maybe you could help with the ball and stuff. You and D.Va are not doing a good job of keeping the ball off your teammates, because your DPS aren't probably going to kill him. May's going to have a really hard time catching ball, and Soldier can only do so much. He can pump a lot of damage into a ball, but he might not necessarily kill that ball. So this is a little bit of you're kind of hoping that your team will always be there for you when you're not being there for them, right? The stuff I was talking about earlier at the start, where it's like, okay, well, they're going to want to play around you. They can't play around you if the enemy team is going around you, if that makes sense. Additionally, there's something else I wanted to add to this. You might be chasing the game a little bit too much. And what I mean by that is like, you're always running forward to like the next, I know, like, you're always running forward to like the next fight, the next like opportunity of getting to use your ult, or like building your ult. Sometimes, even, well, admittedly you're on offense, but like sometimes you need to like break down defense to go in and make those kinds of plays or choices. Why don't I see someone underneath the map? Did someone fall to their death? Oh, D.Va knocks Soldier off the map. That's kind of funny. I was like, wait, why do I see a UI character under there? And if you're always chasing Overwatch, that means everyone else gets to play Overwatch, because like you shatter in, and then Anna hasn't used any of her abilities yet, right? Because she's been kind of saving them for you. So you go in and you shatter, and you're almost always slept afterwards. That would have been a great time to just charge and kill that ball. I know you can't catch a ball, but you can certainly deter the ball. I would even say shattering him is good. There's also other... I think you have a hard time dealing with ball, and there's a couple things to learn about, like, the Rein versus ball kind of, like, nuances. Like, the first one I mentioned where it's like, if he's going to do a pile driver, you almost always can, like, just, like, use geometry to, like, figure out where he's going to drop. Like, if you see it, then chances are you can almost always shift and, you can almost always shift and pin him when he does it. Like, your charge, as you learn it and you get better at it, it can become comfortable. Like, it can become normal to, like, charge and pin a ball who's using his pile driver. I couldn't think of the name for the skill earlier, but now I have it. Pile driver. If he's spinning around in a perfect circle on an object, I'm gonna take you on a little physics lesson for a moment. Let's see if was this right before it or after it. No, so this is I had missed it a little bit. This is not one of those perfect scenarios, but it'll accentuate my point further. So, not this one, but yeah, you could like have pinned him there. He's going to get his ability. So like this one here, like you notice it's not a perfect circle in this instance. Like he's like coming around here, right? But it's almost always safe to assume that this entire lane is going to be, he's going to come back here at some point. So like if you figure out the circles, like, oh, he's kind of going like this, he's going to go over that metal grate. It's always, you can just charge, and chances are that he's not going to want to let go of this, and he's going to keep going. So like he does, right? He comes back, and you could be set up there to like really mess him up and not give him, you know, like you can just take off the tether. I mean, he's nanoed now, but before he was nanoed, or before, you can't, basically what I'm trying to get is you cannot just let this ball do as he pleases. Like, you can swing on him. You can, control, like, you can help deter it. So, like, what I've been trying to show you here, basically is that you're using a lot of time in your positioning to, like, assume that you're going to do the impossible, right? So, like, watch, you decide not to swing on that ball with your team. You're like, no, you know what? I'm going to go be in the front line. What am I going to do? I'm going to stop this Anna from what, dude? What are you doing here? Like, what is she, other than sleeping and nading you? She's doing nothing. Like, you could have at least shielded this guy who's like doing damage, but he doesn't really have much to aim at either. But you know why? It's because you're not looking behind you. You don't know what's really going on until you turn around when like the nano goes out and like the things are like your soldier's doing work. Like he's working with like almost the rest of your teammates are dealing with the ball. You're kind of like, I'm going to hold this space that no one's going to capitalize on. Like if there was a soldier right here, or if there was like, you guys were like pushing out, you're like, we're going to go get that Anna. Yeah, that's one thing. But even if you go get that Anna, it's not going to help you all that much because Rein and Genji are coming out the other door. You need to decide who's worth shielding against and who isn't. Anna is just simply not one of those people. You only want to shield against her so that way you don't get slept or naded. Or even nade, it's fine at this point, because obviously who's going to come and like capitalize on it. But you don't need to be up here. Like, you can kind of look at the team and it's like, okay, who do I need to block against? Like, I need to use my shield against Soldier, but he's dead. You're like, Genji's going to be coming in, but he's not getting the nano blade. Like, this would be a way more potent comp than like the nano ball. But if he builds his ult again, he's going to be in more of a pain. So let's look. And you're kind of just swinging your hammer, like, when you need to. Yeah. Again, it's like, who are you shielding? No one really. You should have been looking for that shatter. Yeah. That's just a mistake there. You let that shatter go through. That should have never even happened. You should either shattered him or blocked it. You had to do either, and you chose neither. So, unfortunately, let's see how you use this shatter. Okay, you realize there's all enemies in front of you, and they don't have much to use yet, so you need to reset. Good. See? Keep swinging on that ball. You kind of lost track of him, which is a little discouraging. And okay, yeah. So this is the second. This is like almost the third inconsistent shatter you tried. Reinhardt learned that pat. You know, like I don't want to give him too much credit, right? But there's a chance that he learned that pattern from you, that you like to come around corners and shatter right away. You did it earlier, so and that one caught him off guard, even though he was like, you know, like back. I don't want to like rewind the video and try to find it, but back here, right, you did the same thing. You like came around this corner and you shattered him. I think you even did it over here too during the game. I'm not gonna go look, but like it's a pattern he recognized, possibly. What better players will recognize that as well. If you always do the same style of shatter, like the style of shatter I'm talking about here is like you go around a corner and shatter, or you think you're gonna catch him when he drops his shield kind of shatter. Like not a shatter that's like, oh, I waited for him to lose his shield, then I shattered him, or I waited for something to affect him, then I shattered him, or you know, I instead of using the shatter there, you could have just charged him, right? I mean, it would have been a little risky because of you know, the rest of the team's going to be there, and your only place you would have been able to shatter to is into that wall, but Mei has a nice wall, right? Basically, you're only utilizing one kind of shatter, and you need to incorporate other ones into your style, or else you're going to be very predictable.
10 seconds remaining.
I don't know where that soldier thinks he's going. Nail right next to him, he's like, yeah, I'm going to run at the enemy. I think your nerfs got a little bit too here. A little bit. I've kind of noticed, like, because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, what in the hell was that? Right? So, watch. Yeah, you blocked the sleep. Cool. And then this. So you're like, you don't know what's happening. Oh, like a sensory overload. You don't have to stop yourself from... you don't have to block 100% of damage. You only need to block a lot of the big damage. So, like, you know the gold bars on your health? The, your armor bars? When you see those, it's okay to give up some of those. They negate damage on their as well. In a way, they're kind of like mini shields, right?
Ready for battle.
You have another lever. Okay, they're back. This time it was the other DPS, I think. Don't worry, they're back. It's fine. Everything's okay. They're only going to be a little late. Are you going to incorporate that lateness into your play? I don't know.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
It's okay to stay an extra second and see like what the enemy comp looks like. I don't feel like lower level players get enough advantage out of it, but it's okay to like scout your enemy, right? Like you want to kind of know what you're up against, because then you can start asking yourself questions. And I mean, this is a good habit I think to get into, is like think of what Reinhardt really hates. Reinhardt does not like Anna, but it's been pretty consistent. They've had an Anna, so chances are they're still going to have that Anna or that soldier, but they have been mixing up their DPS a little bit. They've also been mixing up their off tank. You know, like you kind of know there's a Winston now, but you can ask yourself, it's like, okay, what heroes are really scary for Reinhardt? Like other than the other Rhine and the Anna, Genji's like, yeah, he can do a lot of damage to you, but Genji and Trace aren't looking to fight you. They're looking to like get around you and fight your teammates. or like the ball they had. You know, balls is not really going to fight you either. They prefer to go after squishier targets rather than like the big Reinhardt. So like you can look at like the enemies you see and like deduce what kind of gameplay you should be going for. So like right now you're holding really far back when you could be swinging on a Reinhardt, you could be swinging on the Winston, and you could be holding that corner and preventing them from coming in. If that Winston does come in, you can back off to allow like the rest of their team to slowly move in, but also like shield yourself and protect yourself. But look, your Symmetra's playing forward, your Diva's playing forward. She's got the wall set up. Like, so Symmetra has set up those turrets, right? You can use those turrets to help control that area. You should be up there controlling the area with them. But right now you're holding back because you're still in like this very you're playing more to your feelings, which is like, oh, I need to be defensive because you know, I don't want to die, or I don't want to lose the game for my team because we can only afford a tick, right? You're like thinking that way, but rather than like the kind of like gung-ho attitude of like, I could just go hold this area until someone tells me otherwise, right? So like you immediately give up that area and you're like, I'm gonna let that tracer behind me, right? But she can't really stay. But like your Diva's the one up here doing the fight. Go fight. There you go. But don't over oh sorry, oops, I went a little too far. So it's like, yeah, go fight. Oh, what happened? I got naded. Why did you get naded? Because you let that Ana come around the corner. Like, by the time you decided to engage into this fight, they had already kind of taken that space away from you. So, like, this space was yours, but now as the tanks have moved up, the DPS are kind of going around, Ana's moving up. You know, like, the supports are moving up. Okay, there's less threat here now than there was previously. And your Diva can only do so much, but Diva's, like, still trying to maintain that space, but she can jetpack away. But you're like, okay, I'm going to go for this. But now, both supports have come around. There's many enemies in this area. This is not a safe space anymore. Your Ana gets a big nade, but you decided to charge in front of this Ana. So now she's like, okay, well, I haven't used any abilities yet. I throw the grenade on this Rein, and now he's guaranteed dead even if he kills my Reinhardt. Which you barely get out of. Like, literally barely get out of. Yeah, you recognize that going up, you want to, but it's okay to want to push them out of that space. You don't have to be that scared of getting purpled all the time. I think you're kind of just still like reacting normally to like everything rather than like interpreting what it means to have done to you. Risky. Risky, risky, risky. That was a risky pin. I think a good footnote to have is that if your pin is going to end up in front of enemy teams, it's pretty much not going to be a good pin, right? Like, yeah, it's a good pin if you pin the Rein, but it's a really bad pin because Ana and like other team and his teammates are like looking right at you. Thankfully, Ana's the only one who's in this comp is the only one who's really gonna hinder your ability to do things with like a nade or like a sleep. But say there was a McCree or a Roadhog or like any other hero, that would have been suicide. Charge that run. Oh. Okay, too. Yeah, good. Go up here, build another shatter. Not, yeah, so you have the sim turrets here. It's okay to play back here. You can't block Coalescence, so there's not much of a point of thinking about it. Ooh. You already got rid of the Ana, so you know that it's okay to swing on that Rein. Yeah. Okay, you got to work on your. It looks like you're trying to do the rain extension, but you're doing it backwards, which is like it's a very common thing. I see that you only ever go for risky pins. You really should go for really safer pins. Like, it's okay to just pin a monkey, dog. Like, just do it. Even if it only goes like an inch or so. If you think you can get the if that wall's between you and that monkey, just do it. I think you go into your shield too much for your own good. When you don't need to. And a lot of times it's like you're kind of trying to observe the it's helpful to observe the battlefield in this third person perspective, but it's really bad if you're like only can view it in that perspective. You have completely wasted that nano. Admittedly, Anna should would probably have nanoed you, but good timing on the May wall, good May drop. See, like that, you kind of recognize that timing there. If you can think about the shorter time frames, like the one I was mentioning with the pile driver, you can do it. It's possible. Did they not even get? Oh, were they already in? Did I miss your attack?
Ready for battle.
Or did you guys? Oh, you guys had overtime. Oh, so they only needed. Yeah, you guys were. Yeah, you drew it. I see. Okay, I don't know why I suddenly forgot how comp rules worked for a minute there, but. Okay, so the number one, if you take nothing else away from all the other things I said, the three main takeaways. One, look behind you, see where your healers are, and where the rest of your team is. Two, play a little bit more with your team. Taking space is only good if your team is there to like help utilize it. If they're not, then you cannot take that space. There's no point of really taking that space when you could be doing something else to help your team. Three, mix up you need to work on more of your Rhine tech. Like the way you shatter, I think is very readable. It's those very, kind of just like, I'm going to just shatter. Like, I'm going to just shatter and just see if it works. It's still kind of like in the very, very much like the chaos phase of like learning Reinhardt, right? It's just like, I don't know what shatters work, so I'm just always going to go with these like comfortable corner shatters. Better Reinhardts are, because like think about it, better Reinhardts are tracking your alt, right? They're like, if chances are if you have alt, they have alt, right? So when a Reinhardt thinks this way, it's usually pretty safe to assume that those, like anytime a Reinhardt decides he's going to come around the corner, there's a chance he's going to shatter. And if I have a shield, I need to be ready to shield him. I might flick my shield to mess with him, but it's like, if I have an inkling that you have shatter, I am not going to just give you a free one. Like, just that will just never happen. And like at the end there, this Reinhardt was catching on to your way of shattering. So he's like, okay, he's going to do it like as a surprise. So like, I should just not drop my shield when I think I need to. You need to try other. It's okay to let your teammates do things as well, even if you can't trust them. Like, if you think, like if you got like a soldier in a May, for example, and like that, right, you can wait for that May to freeze that Reinhardt, then you can shatter him. It's okay. It's okay if you don't get the big 5-man shatty every time, but if you're only looking for the 5-man shatties, then you're almost rarely ever going to get shatters in, because that's like the ones that the Reinhardts are like, okay, I have to protect against that. Whereas the it's like, oh, if you just commit to like getting 1 kill or like 2 kills, you can still swing a fight in your favor, especially if it's like as you get better, if like you're recognizing who might have alt or like who can be a threat. Like if you would slow down that ball a lot more, you guys probably would have had a lot more time, because that ball would like come, he'd like contest point, he'd like distract your healers, he's doing a lot of work with his time, whereas you're like, I'm kind of holding space and I'm not going to deal with the ball. Like that in commitment is like kind of like where he's allowed to thrive, and you gotta like be better about opposing that. You don't have to just go oppose the one Reinhardt. You could also break that Reinhardt shield. That's another good way to allow yourself an opportunity to shatter the enemy. Like let him wear down his options, because usually what will happen is the Reinhardts, either right before their shield will break, they'll either drop it because they don't want to have to wait the cooldown, or let you know, or like hear the voice line that lets you obviously know that their shield is broken, or they'll want to charge to like help counter that. if you think you're the enemy Reinhardt, if you're directly next to the enemy Reinhardt and you think he's going to shatter, you can also charge him. But, oh yeah, I'll say number 4 for this. If you're worried about how your charges are going to work out, consider just going for safer charges. You don't have to charge into the enemy team. But almost always, assume that if you're going to charge and you don't know what's around the corner to where you're going to land, say like the one here was a good example. This area is a really good example. If you're going to shatter, or excuse me, you're going to pin into this wall, you almost, unless this card is here, like pinning into the card is fine. Pinning into this like wall or like into this hallway is fine. But if you're almost going to pin against this wall and you do not know where the enemy is positioned, sorry, God, that's so annoying. If you're going to pin into this wall and like, or you're going to pin into this area or pretty much any elbow, right? Because there's a lot of elbows in this map. Like if you're here and you're like, oh, I'm going to pin into this, or you're on defense and you're like, oh, I'm going to pin into this, but I don't know what's over here. It's almost always going to be really risky. You have to just play it by ear, but pretty much go for shorter pins if you have to. Just pin against this wall, or, you know, pin into this area, you know. That's the other thing, is that you can always set it up so that your pin ends in an area that is not going to be lethal. Until you get more comfortable, or if like once you're kind of like tracking players' abilities and you can like kind of know like, oh, I knew Anna used her sleep and her nade, or she's not even in this fight, then it's like, okay, I could just pin. It doesn't really matter, because they're, even if they turn on me, I'm gonna have my Anna. Don't pin into an area where your healers can't see you, and don't pin into an area where their Anna can see you. Stuff like this. I think you're a little indecisive. I think it's okay to be a little more like, I'm going to do this and I'm just going to go for it. But remember, chasing fast targets is probably a waste of time, and chasing far away targets is probably a waste of time. You don't always have to go for the Reinhardt. I know it's easy, but you know, you can create space by dragging, say, their Reinhardt into an area that he doesn't want to be. So like, say for example, when you guys were fighting here, you know, you can instead just like kind of fake engage him. It's like you get him pulled in and then run away, you know, like bring him back, so that way he's not, now he has to bring his teammates out and your teammates can still like be in a safer position, so on and so forth. I think that's about it for this VOD. If you have any questions, let me know. Cool.